Going live.
Going live.
Ooh. Oh man, guess what we're talking about tonight, guys? That's right, we're live
We are
on
live.
late night Thursday night, aka just after midnight
Mm-hmm.
podcast. And this week, we are going to talk about what really everyone's been talking about, honestly. Social media has, of course, blown up after the congressional discussion, seeming to confirm, wait for it, aliens.
Mm-hmm.
Woo!
Now,
Go ahead.
yeah, aliens, bro.
Aliens,
Aliens.
bro.
Crazy.
Crazy. What were we going to say?
I'll say it later on, man. I'll say it later on.
I want to hear it, man. I want to hear the hot take right off the jump.
Well, I'm just saying, like, they said biologicals. We don't know what biologicals mean.
That's going to be a hot take that I cannot wait for us to get into because I have thoughts about that too, and I want to
Mm-hmm.
see what yours are. I think we're both thinking the same thing, honestly. um, First of all, I want to acknowledge the beard slash
Mm-hmm.
the stash.
Exactly.
It's the best it's ever looked in my whole life,
I
except
gotta
that part.
say, there's a lot going on, man.
It's a lot going on. That part's still empty. That's been that way my whole life.
It's all good, man. It's all good. This is it does its own thing.
It does its own thing. That's all right though. It's
It
all right
is.
though.
We
Yeah,
take those.
we we take we're feeling good tonight, guys, and we hope you are too whenever you watch this, even if it's not with the live stream. But whether you're live, whether you're not, we want you to leave your comments in the comments section of this video. Let us know what you're thinking in regard to the topic that we're talking about. The best part of this show is when you're on the live stream and get to jump in the comments with us in real time.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, we're not doing it so late, so it's more reasonable time for you guys to jump in. But we want to hear what you have to say about these discussions, about these trending topics, and often AI discussions that we're going to have. And we may have one tonight. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, let's go ahead and I say just dive right into it, man.
Yeah.
We're talking about again the UAP discussion, which is unidentified aerial phenomena.
Mm-hmm.
Banana. You know why?
Phenomena.
Thank you. You know why they're phenomena?
Mm.
Because they're not necessarily, ships, jets, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're just phenomena.
Exactly. That's why we're
So,
not doing objects anymore. It's phenomena.
yeah, it could be a meteor. It could be the northern lights. That's happened.
Correct.
People are like, "What's that thing in the sky?" It's northern lights, bro. But
Yo,
this is
be
a further
dramatic.
thing. Basically, basically, a guy who used to work for the Air Force, serve in the Air
Mm-hmm.
Force, and has had firsthand experience with these UAPs and retrieving them on a more classified scale, interacting with parts of it. Had some really interesting bombshells to share with Congress.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we know that for many decades, well, for a long time, there's been suspicions of aliens, right? But for really gearing up more and more the last just couple of years, there's actually another episode where Dennison and I discuss the release of a 2004 video from, I think it was an F-18's infrared,
Mm-hmm.
and it was chasing this thing that was going so fast it couldn't even keep up with it full speed for an F-18, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't look like a typical jet. And we hypothesized based on the fact that things marvels like the SR-71 Blackbird was unveiled in 19 things that would blow our mind now.
Mhm.
Uh, but this apparently is a little different than that, right?
Yeah.
Um, and a lot more in depth. This those type of discussions, by the way, have fueled a curiosity for Congress to have more information on these UAP interactions. And supposedly, the goal also is to share the findings with the public. We'll also have a discussion on that. But we
Yeah.
got a lot to get into. So I just say we slap right into it. That was a weak slap. My bad.
That was a weak slap, man. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
just
was a weak.
there it
There
is.
you go. There you go. I'll use that for the cut. There it is. Um. All right. Well, let's go ahead and roll the intro. Three, two, one. What's going on, everybody? I'm John,
And I'm Dennison.
and this is the catch up.
Oh yeah,
Felt good.
that
That
did
was
feel good.
crisp. Let us know in the comments if you thought that was crisp. Just say it's crisp. Um,
Crisp, like Krispy Kremes, bro.
like that. Dang. I kind of wants those, dude. I kind of
Me
want some of
too.
those. But yeah, so I don't know. I think we just need to go right into this, dude. We got good
Yeah,
topics
just
going.
jump into it.
Three, two, one. Before we fully jump into this topic, I want to remind you guys the three best ways to support this show. Number one is to leave us a rating and a review. There's your one right there. Oh man. Leave us a rating and review wherever you're listening, wherever you're watching. That helps us out and helps us continue to grow. It's a free way to support the show. Number two is to oh man, there's two whole things right there. Number two, by the way, is jump on this live stream. As I mentioned, it's the best way to interact with us and steer the show in real time. If you're listening on the audio, we encourage you to jump on Facebook and YouTube and you know, jump in the comments and let us know your thoughts. Also, Catherine, good to see you in the comments, and thank you for saying it's crisp. I like that. I like because it was crisp. Uh, oh man, number three. Dennison's got his props right. I can tell. Oh my, I got hold on, hold it. Wait, hold it. There it is. There's all three right there, just so we can get it on camera. All right, number three is go to the link below wherever you're listening, wherever you're watching, and check out our merch, check out our apparel. We have a bunch of cool stuff: shirts, hats, beanies, um, and even mugs and phone cases. We got all kinds of stuff, and that helps us continue to pay to put on this show. So that'd be a great way to support us if you choose to do it. All right, man. Time to jump in this topic. Ooh, right. I
hmm
think I replaced those with the actual sound, by the way. So yeah, this is really interesting, right? Because we're getting out loud, out in front of the world, acknowledgement of UFOs, right? On a grand
hmm
scale. And also, you know, it is weird. I have to say this. I want to hear your thoughts on this, but I have to say too, it's weird, right? We never hear about these things from Russia or China or UK, right? Any
Yeah.
other major world power. It's always like the theory of UAPs, but only in America. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, I don't know though. I feel like we may, sure, technically we don't hear anything, but I wouldn't be surprised that if if you were in Europe that you do hear that kind of stuff because it sounds like our news is, I mean, for the most part, most of the news that we get, right, is from here. Of course, there is world news, but I wouldn't be surprised if we're only hearing like a fraction of the stuff that's actually going on, right?
Well, for sure. Yep.
Similar to like people in Europe, I've heard from people in Europe, from like coworkers and stuff that they're like, I don't know, I don't know much about the United States. I mean, they don't. I mean, they don't really get our news, right? So,
Sure.
I mean, of course, they're gonna get the big stuff, but they're not gonna get like everything. So I wouldn't be surprised if
It's a great
they,
point.
yeah. So I would be surprised if they get anything like smaller, or I mean, sorry, if they have like smaller hearings or something similar to that, um, that we just don't hear too much about.
Dude, absolutely. And I totally agree with you. That's a great perspective. Man, it just is interesting, honestly, of, w- this thing coming to light in such a big way too.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, this is the first that we've heard of it in a big public. Well, I will
Yeah.
say without it sounding, because unfortunately, there is that stereotype always with people that are like, "Really? Did you really see aliens? Did you really get abducted?" You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Um, yeah, I think there's a couple of things that stood out. So this went on for a while, right? This discussion went on for a while.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. And they had three presenters,
Mhm.
or three speakers,
That's right.
who
You
went
had
in
the
front of
main
the.
guy and two other Air Force pilots.
Correct, correct. And the two other Air Force pilots are the ones who were part of those two videos that we saw way back when, right?
Right.
The one that there was one from like it looked like a tic-tac, like on the video. It's like it looks kind of like a tic-tac shaped object going over
That's
the
what I was
water.
mentioning earlier. Yeah. That
Exactly.
was.
And then you had another one, which is that one that we saw in the air, and it was that pilot who
Mhm.
was describing like the information, like essentially recounting his story, or I think that's right. Yeah, he was essentially talking about his story again,
Mhm.
and giving more detail to Congress, and yeah, just kind of held up to whatever information that they were asking for or whatever. So
Yeah,
it's pretty crazy,
it
honestly.
is. And yeah, I mean, so basically one of the there's a few of these things, right, that stood out, and I'm just making sure. So he was a whistleblower, by the way. He came
Yes.
forward as someone that like the public needs to know about this. But he first of all, actually, before I get into the nitty gritty of what he said, the goal here is to his goal is to make it more public,
Hmm.
right? uh what these findings have been, what these interactions with these UAPs have been, the incidents with them, that kind of thing, right? I want to explain too what we talked about, like I said earlier, the advancement of the technology, right? We talked about this in an earlier episode.
Hmm.
So I think there's a concern of like national security to, super advanced spy planes or what have you.
Exactly.
Those kind of things. So I think there is some level of concern about that. Now there are other things that we will talk about soon, but he says he wants to make these things public because he says something to the effect that these interactions have been traumatizing, right?
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
so apparently there are some people in Congress who say they will work to make um, all their findings of these issues, which are only, at this point classified from the military, these incidents public. But with that in mind, and with the idea that they could be military interactions, right?
Mhm.
Do we really think they'd become public?
I think we'll get it may be it may become public, but it will probably be a lot of stuff redacted, you know.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't be surprised if say some of those interactions were in say some of our more advanced aircraft, um and they'll redact like the details of the aircraft that they were using to be able to get the information, but they may still say like, well, this thing that we couldn't tell what it was doing this,
Hmm.
and we were moving as quickly as possible, and it was outmaneuvering any, any known aircraft or something like that that we have, or like any of the technology that we have available to us today.
Right.
Right? I could see something like that, right? Where it's redacted, like there's a lot of information that gets redacted, but at least you have some sort of public knowledge base there.
Sure. Well, and I find that interesting too because there are other bills that are waiting to be pushed through Congress that are like declassifying the death of John F. Kennedy, right? Because
Mm,
a lot of those details, if you remember, came became unclassified. What was that? 6 years ago, something like that. It would have
mhm.
been more than that, I guess. But anyway, it didn't really detail how he died, right? And so there are people pushing for that in Congress, and I think that that would continue with stuff like this. But if we speculate, which I will say, this is my opinion, I don't think if it's military interactions that the public will find out. You know,
Yeah.
I really don't. Maybe sometimes you'll hear whistleblowers come forward and like CNN will report, "Hey, China hacked the Pentagon. Chinese hackers hacked through the Pentagon security, right? Sometimes like that. You may hear things like that, but I will say this. If there are aliens in our airspace, I really don't think you're going to hear about that. If you barely hear anything about, and I don't want to take the wind out of the sails of this conversation early. But I don't know. Do you agree with me on that? Like, unless it's an immediate threat that can't be hidden, I don't feel like there are gonna be aliens out here, you know?
I mean, I think you're right. I don't. I think there's a certain level of information that they're actually going to release out, regardless of. I mean, unless it's like, hey, aliens are about to pop up just in the next, I don't know, few days. So
Mm.
just so you know, we've been tracking these things for like years now, and it's real.
Oh, it's gonna be like Independence Day up in this joint. The original one, not the remake.
Yes. So yeah, I could see something like that.
Yeah,
Um, but I
I
do
can
think maybe more of the, more ambiguous information may be released. I could see something similar to that.
that's interesting. I don't know. That's a that's our differing opinions on this, bro.
Hmm.
Long-time viewers of the podcast know we used to differ on opinions a lot. We we've come to we've come to like minds, bro. For example, I used to hate AI, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
Um, but now I love it, you know. And I I will say I just don't think we would normally find out about that stuff. Of course, it depends, but we'll see, right?
Hmm.
Oftentimes, I will say this though. I will say this. I bet we find out about military interactions from these declassifying, thanks to this hearing with the UAP guy. Um, if it best suits our national propaganda.
Yeah, I could
I
see that.
don't I don't mean to sound, jaded, but that is how it works. That's how it works.
Hmm.
That's how they got so many people behind the war effort in World War II, right? Not that it was misplaced or anything like that, but they had to have women help, so they created that character. Oh my, this is gonna be so bad. I don't remember her name, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about, but I can't
Yeah,
remember her name either. Yeah, she does like the little strong pose or whatever.
X, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. So anyway, I digress on that, but let's get into what was spoken about, right?
Hmm.
So one of the things that stood out to me was this guy claimed um, that he interacted with or was on site where these UAP crashes happened, right?
Hmm.
He
Or was it the? I thought it was the crash recovery.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Detailed briefings on other UAPs interactions, he said some of the details are frightening or something like that,
Mhm.
like I said earlier, something like traumatizing. Um, which is interesting, right? So to me, when I'm learning this, I'm still thinking, oh, it's like advanced technology from another country, right? Like China.
Mhm.
But then this dude says there were no humans on board this one crash, right?
Mhm.
And he says, after being asked, even though it was weird, he's like, there's certain things I can't tell, but no, it wasn't a human. Also, yes, it did have biologics. Like, so you're saying it's aliens, man?
Exactly.
you know?
I'm reading between the lines, man, but those lines are really easy. You drew an outline, my guy.
I know, man. And so, of course, people have gone wild thinking it's aliens, but
Mhm.
um, and I want to know what y'all's thought is in the chat. Let us know what you think as to what you think it is. But do you think it's aliens, man?
Um, Man, going back to kind of like what we talked about like a few episodes ago, and we've brought it up multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
I just can't understand. And sure, this is coming from my own limited perspective, right? Or the perspective that I have because of um being a human, right? Um, but I just can't see some aliens, right, coming from a whole nother galaxy, or even if it's just another portion of our own galaxy, knowing just how hard it is, just how difficult, incredibly difficult it is just to get off your own daggum planet. That
yeah.
you said, you know what? Let me go ahead and take a stroll to this other planet over here, and just look
Yo, we're
around.
going down.
Yeah, exactly.
Ah!
Let me look around, and oh darn, now we're going down. Whoops. Like, I mean, sure, we can say that these are, you can even say that these are scouts. So, and maybe like first time vessels that maybe crashed, if you're going to go off of that, because it's the first ones that actually finally made it to somewhere else. But I don't know. I mean, I just feel like, if you're going to another planet, right? There's either two things you're gonna do. Sure, you could be a nice person and you're gonna just explore to like look around and be kind of like, cool, this is a touristy attraction, whatever. Or you can
Uh-huh.
say like, you know what, this planet looks pretty nice. I like it. I think
Mm.
I'll have it. And then you're not just gonna be like, well, I guess we're crashing. Like, I mean, you're gonna pop
Oh
up.
shit, we're out of fuel. Whoa.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you're gonna pop up with all your boys and be like, hey, bro, I like this place. You like this place. Let's go ahead and
Hey,
take
it's
this.
lit here, huh? Yeah, for sure. Hey, you want to move in? Let's do it.
Let's
Pop
go.
up with your boys.
Our old place sucks, bro. We're coming to this spot.
Bro,
Like, I
I'm
don't know. It's just That's just my thought process, right? So
yeah.
I feel like um saying biologics, saying they're non-human, I feel like that could be a red herring, right? As you said, right? It's like they stated that it wasn't humans, but it also was, yeah, but also they didn't want to say that they wanted that it was aliens. So what else is there, right? I could see something like some sort of robots, maybe
Yeah.
androids, right? Because technically, right, that wouldn't be a human. That wouldn't be that could, if it's an android or a cyborg or some sort of mutant, whatever, that could technically fall into the category of something that has biologics, but it may not be fully biological,
Hmm.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
there's that. Or even, I'm still a firm believer that, UFOs, UAPs are nothing more than humans from the future. Who's to say that the aircraft
Yeah. Oh,
I mean,
you
who's to
took
say
my
that
bombshell, bro.
aircraft from the future, if it's just a time machine, right? A time machine could look like what a flying saucer looks like.
Yeah,
I mean, it would also make sense on like no propulsion things because you're literally moving through time. So things could be slightly different on how it like maneuvers, all that good stuff. But
but
anyway,
why would it be non-human biologics if it was somebody from the future then?
well, if it's in the, but I mean, I guess if you were to think of my thought process is that it could just a version of humans that just don't look like how we look now, right?
It'd be, dude. It's like Kang.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if it's like something completely different than what we would traditionally think of as a human, but it could
Sure.
be technically one.
You took my big bombshell, man, but I will say this. I'll add one to it. What if it's just like a dog?
Yeah, it could be that too. They sent
Honest-
Fido into the in the over.
Honestly, bro, they put a dog in the first space flight
Yeah,
or chimpanzee. Why
yeah,
couldn't they just put a freaking, rat inside this hyperspeed jet? You know what I'm saying?
yeah. I mean, hey, you remote control it, right? You just want to see if it can survive, and then they
Yeah,
crash. They're just like, oh well,
didn't survive.
didn't survive. Exactly.
Okay, I remember the word now. He said some of what we saw was pretty disturbing, right?
Hmm.
It was very weird. I don't know. But
Yeah.
either way, man, I still think there's like a human god complex involved, right?
Hmm.
We either believe that we're so important that aliens would come and try to take us out or visit us, whatever, when there's a whole infinite universe to explore, or we have that complex regarding a robot being made to pilot these planes, right?
Hmm.
But I will say that's got to be the most likely theory, dude. That's
Yeah.
got to be it. I
Yeah.
don't know why you'd want a human shaped robot to pilot, um, you know, obviously hyperspeed vessels or cloaking vessels, whatever they are, right?
Hmm.
But that has to be it, man.
Yeah. That's
That
what I
has,
would. That's what I believe. I mean, as because yeah, you could have some sort of robots or something similar to that as a scouting deal, right? These crashes could very well just be, like you said, right? Test flights, test flights to get to us.
what as far as aliens.
Sure, yeah. If we're going with aliens or whatever like that, if
Well,
we
I
if
mean,
we're gonna go along the lines of aliens, I could easily see it as being like a test flight, right? This
yeah.
is to see how far can we go, kind of like the Voyager probe, right? That we
Mhm.
sent out. Think about it. If a random alien, like if Voyager crashed on some other planet, one, we wouldn't know for a while because it has to send that signal back. um, and two, um I mean, aliens would be like, "What the freak is this? Oh my gosh!" Blah, 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 so I could see something similar to that, right?
Yeah, I know. I did think about the time travel thing, like accidentally going through a wormhole and then landing in 2022 United States, dude. That'd be crazy.
Hmm.
But yeah, that and I don't know, man. It's a lot of intrigue with this for sure. And
Yeah,
also, granted, there's not been anybody that has come out and neglected what he said,
yeah,
which is also very interesting.
yeah,
Normally, you have somebody, some high ranking military official. I don't know what this guy's talking about. He's out of his mind, this and that. There hasn't been any of that, man. I
yeah,
know it's only been a day, 2 days.
Yeah, but I mean, he because he started his whistleblowing like I think maybe a month ago.
You're right. They knew this was coming for a while. Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm,
So and the thing is, what makes him so interesting than a lot of the other whistleblowers that have come in the past is that he has the credentials, right?
yeah.
He was a part of um he was a part of like the newer task force that was created to try to figure out what was going on in our skies. I forgot what they're called.
Mm,
But then there was an old task force that was implemented ages ago, that was called Project Blue Book, if I'm not mistaken.
okay.
Um, and so they actually compiled some of the same files and some of the same documents and information from Project Blue Book, which at the end of Project Blue Book, they said that it's nothing essentially. But there's been doubts that have said, or there have been people who have looked over the reports and said that there might have been bias when it came to the end of that report. Like the person who like finally went through everything and said like, oh yeah, no, this is blah blah blah, because this person already had a predisposition to say that it's not real or whatever. So anyway, um, this project took some of those same files from Project Blue Book, as well as taking some of the new accounts from other people's. So he was a part of that task force, or a part was a part of it. I guess technically he's not anymore, but and then he knows people within there. That's where he's gotten a lot of his information, and that's the reason why he has like very verified, very substantial credentials to make him far more believable than any of the others that we've encountered in the past.
Okay. Interesting. That's great background.
Hmm.
Um, Man, this will be interesting to see what comes from this. This is definitely the most credible discussion that we've had on this topic. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And I think, I don't know, it's just going to be so interesting to see what happens next. Of course, I'm scrolling through some of the memes I see on TikTok, and one of them is this guy like, in 2024, a mass invasion of aliens. I'm like, I don't know, man.
Hmm.
But
Yeah, I can't see
what if
that, but
what if it's an alien robot? Did you think of that? Probably not. It's an
no,
android, man.
exactly an android, bro, or a cyborg or something. I
There you go.
mean, yeah, I mean, also,
It could be the Justice League's plane.
it could be.
What were we gonna say?
No, I mean, I had heard too, like, there's a theory that says technically, like, what is it? It was like aliens have been here for ages, but they've just essentially blend in by like, essentially they were saying like a lot of humanity's advancements, um, particularly when it came to like technological, like our boom in technological advancements were done by aliens essentially slowly trickling in, but in a way of more like breeding, right? So breeding smarter, more enhanced people who would be able to advance society to a certain point or whatever like that.
Lazy Elon Musk. Oh,
Oh, but that was one of the theories that was out there. But I just wanted to throw that out there just because I'm sure that we would have someone in the comments or something similar to that to pop that out. But going back to our main topic of discussion, yeah, I mean, I want to kind of get your opinion on um, essentially like this crashes portion, right? Because because he was saying that he knew people who were part of the crash and reverse engineering
right.
division
Yes.
of um of uh of this stuff,
Of
right?
the programs,
Yeah,
yes.
programs. Um, what do you feel about like when it comes to reverse engineering? Do you think that might have any play? Because he says that this is, if I'm not mistaken, he said that this has been going on for a little bit of time now.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
he also said that other countries were doing something similar to this, but the US was slightly more or was more successful at recovering crashes and stuff like that
mm,
than other countries.
gosh, you know what? I just have to go back and say that with our speculation of what this really is, it doesn't matter, man. It's so interesting. Whatever is going on, whatever the answer is,
Mhm.
it's so interesting,
Yeah.
because to try and reverse engineer it means we don't have that technology. Now, of course, this would lend itself to aliens, right? If we
Mhm.
don't have this technology, we're trying to reverse engineer it, right? Um,
Or
what
future people.
or future people? Future people, man.
Mhm.
We're living in the past. Except for the past is now, but now it's oh my
It's
god.
all about, I mean, hey man, it's all like we talked about way back in the day, man. Time is a human construct, man. Think about it.
It's irrelevant, man.
It's exactly, it's
Well,
relative. It all depends on your plane of focus,
look, man.
technically, right?
I'm gonna give you all an example. If y'all stayed this long, shout out to you. Y'all, this is time, right?
Mhm.
Linear. You know what I'm saying? I can go time here, boom, time here. If I had the technology, I don't.
Mhm.
I'm not the UAPs that they've been looking for. But boom, boom, time. You know what I'm saying?
Well, but that's
Okay,
the
okay, okay.
but that's the human way of thinking of it, man.
Exactly.
If
But
you
time is
really
actually
Yeah,
wait,
yeah. There we go.
hold up. So I
Uh-oh,
got
he's about to blow everybody's mind. I can see it right now. You looking for it? You got it. You got it.
need something. Oh god. This will work. Hold on. Science experiment.
Okay.
Time is actually circular, man.
Ooh, okay. I see. Okay, where we going with this? Circular.
Yeah, because it all loops back into itself. Eventually everything ends. And then it
Mm.
starts again, man.
So it's like the self-eating snake, right?
Yeah. Is that
Mhm.
what you're gonna say?
I don't know. That's just something that popped up.
Oh, I basically just copied this from Marvel, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, that works, right? I mean, technically, Einstein's thing was saying that time is relative, right? It's all depending on the perspective that we have. And so
yeah.
his thought process was that you were, I mean, if you really think about it too, just like construct wise, if you, or just like I don't know, the what's it called? Uh Anyway, if you really think about it, right, you're always in the present. You're never in the future. You're never in the past. The
Mhm,
past is only what you remember. But when you were back in that time, or what would be considered the past, technically that was your present.
mhm,
So your consciousness is always in all is in past, present, and future, right?
mhm. Yes.
Technically. So, I guess when you think of time travel, it all really just depends on your perspective. Because if they're all flowing at the exact same time, then uh, I would imagine that it wouldn't be that much harder to say, like, or that much harder to essentially just move yourself into create a different present
Yeah,
for you.
which technically creates a whole different timeline, man. In the
Mhm.
theory of multiverses, that is.
Yes.
Um, but But anyway, to get back to your actual main question, what do I think about the reverse engineering? I think obviously there's a huge opportunity there, but it just
Hmm.
really makes you wonder. I don't have a good answer for that because it just really makes you wonder what that technology is. Because if it, we reverse engineer things all the time, you know,
Hmm.
other countries do it with US technologies all the time. So is it an exaggerated description of something as simple as that? Or is this really stuff that's like beyond our understanding, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, if it's non-human biologics, it's either just flower AI, robot, maybe an alien.
Hmm.
I don't know.
Ooh. You know, one thing that I just now thought of. Remember that project? It was like way back in the 60s or something like that, I think, that the Air Force tried to do where they tried to create a craft that was
Saucer.
circular, like a
Yeah.
flying saucer, essentially.
Uh-huh.
I would be surprised if that was an attempt at reverse engineering something that they recovered, right? But
Do you
they
think
just
freaking
couldn't.
aliens are blowing up in them saucers? Is that what you think, bro? Whoa.
No, I'm just saying, like, think about it, right? Say if we recovered a super partial crash, right?
Hmm.
Um, we would be like, okay, cool. If somehow they propose, how would in our brains, how would we create this now?
Right.
Right? Because that's the thing, right? I feel like I can easily see that as their attempt, or at least our attempt at the time, to reverse engineer something that we saw, right? Because saw or recovered. Because, right, for the Air Force to invest because they did that project for a decent amount of time. It wasn't just like, "Oh, let's just try it out." It was they tried that for a while, but they never could get it, like, just right, essentially. They ended up scrapping the program.
Right.
But, um, if they felt enough credence to at least try it out, that means that they had to have had something, I would imagine, reference wise, to say like this technically has to work in some form or fashion, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Other than just the nonsensical, um, television stuff that we got right at the time or something else.
Yeah, I like the convertible flying saucers. Those are my favorite. The
Oh
one with
yeah.
no top, and they're just like riding in.
Yeah. Chilling.
Basically, it has a sky background, but it's actually like a Cadillac with like an entire like add-on built around it to make it look like a saucer.
Hmm.
Oh man. Um, yeah, I don't know. There's so many interesting possibilities, man. I mean, you bring up great reference with what's going on in the past. But man, there is, I mean, even something as simple as something like, how we can use magnets to attract or repel, right?
Oh yeah, like superconductors.
Right. But even a simple magnet, right?
Hmm.
So, like, I'm talking magnetism in this example.
Oh, okay.
Think of like, what if they have some substance, like, think of it if it's aliens, right? They have some substance on their planet that allows their um, you know, ship, whatever it is, to fly, and it's able to propel itself through space, but there's an issue with, Earth's gravity, maybe the magnetic pole, right? The gravitational pull
Hmm.
just sends it out of control. I don't know. There's androids, robots, AI going off script. There's dogs being on a remotely piloted thing. I don't know, man. The part that you said, why some of the stuff I saw was disturbing, is the stuff that sticks in my mind the most. Because
Yeah.
what does that mean? I mean, even privates in the army see disturbing stuff on the regular, right?
No, you're not wrong.
So I don't know. I don't know, man. It's interesting.
Yeah. I mean that. Yeah, I could see. Yeah, it would be yeah, it is something that's kind of hard to say, like
Mm-hmm.
if that was what they were, what could be disturbing enough to get that,
To
to
get that
to give
reaction.
you that type of reaction, especially because this is a guy who I would imagine has seen his fair share of like disturbing stuff.
Yeah, definitely. You would think so. Man, it's weird. I don't know. But I will say, I do think that we had a great discussion on this.
Mm-hmm.
Um, unless you had anything you wanted to add, man.
No.
Um,
No.
but I'm glad we had so many people jump in the discussion with this. It's a great opportunity for us to discuss with you and get to hear um, your opinions, and
Mm-hmm.
share what we're talking about with y'all. So thank you so much for joining us, and thank you so much for watching us. We'll be live every Thursday, so please like, follow, subscribe, and we can't wait to catch up with you next week.